Welcome to another edition of Indie Pop on the New Age Insiders Network with the last mark standing, consisting of yours truly, Damian Salty G, and heel Trina herself, the Marquis Smart. What's up, Trina?
Hi, guys.
So, guys, we're going to start off by going a little down south. But down south, I mean IWA Mid-South. For those, okay, let me frame it this way. When you hear the term Mid-South Wrestling or something like IWA, what are some of the first things that come to your mind? You know, what are some issues that may pop into your head when you hear something like Mid-South Wrestling? Me, personally, I think of the old school territory days. I think of Texans and these big hoss dudes that eat cornfields for breakfast, you know, and kill cows with their bare hands.
Right. I think like a bloody Harley race is probably
a bloody Harley race mixed with Blackjack Mulligan. You know, that's what I picture when I hear something like that. But our fearless co-host here decided to take a trip to IWA Mid-South. Yeah. And apparently they've been going strong for a while now. So here's a little factoid that was brought to us. The owner is Ian Rotten, formerly of ECW. For those that don't know, his match against Axel Rotten, the glass fist match, if anyone's ever seen it on the network or before that, was very interesting. I'll say that. For, you know, me being in 1996, 97, my age, seeing that, thinking, holy crap, this is one of those like Thailand death matches that you see in Kickboxer. So yeah, he was part of that match. So he is the principal owner of IWA Mid-South.
I think he founded it. I don't know if
he founded it. He's the original owner. Yes, he's the original owner. And another factoid is our friend, not really, but our friend CM Punk, as well as not Cassius Ohno, Chris Hero, engaged in the longest recorded match in 92 minutes of IWA Mid-South. Apparently that's been recognized by ESPN as one of the longest sporting events ever. I find that to be 92 minutes. I can't even get through yoga in like a half hour. I can't even deal with a HIIT workout that takes 35 minutes. Shit, I can't even sit in a chair for longer than 10 minutes before getting bored. But Trina, 92 minutes?
92 minutes. And this was a young Punk, young Chris Hero. This was in the year 2000 that this went on.
That was when you and I were in our 20s, correct?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It was
a long time ago.
So, okay, you went there. So you experienced this show. I want you to paint for the audience your first impressions before even walking in the door.
Okay.
And then after you walked in the door, what you experienced.
Let me preface this first by saying, for some reason, it never occurred to me that I was going to an IWA Mid-South event. What I saw was that a couple of people that I knew were going to be wrestling at the event. Sami Callihan being one of them. You guys know my love for Sami Callihan. And just a couple other people were riding with other wrestlers. Like, it was just a chance for a lot of people that I know who aren't typically in the same room together to be in the same room. And so, you know, I looked on the map. Already bad start because I thought it was 5 hours away. It ended up being 8 hours away from Kansas City. So a longer drive than I thought. And so it never occurred to me that this is what I was walking into until I actually walked into the door. And it took me about half an hour after getting into the area to actually get to the place because it's very tucked away, like tons of little buildings just hiding it. I mean, it's in suburban area. So it's just nondescript. There was like a church next to it, and then, you know, maybe a chiropractor's office or whatever. And then there's this tiny little arena. And so you walk in, and I knew immediately what I had walked into. It felt like walking into a barn with a ring in the middle of it. Yeah. I mean, you know, if you guys have seen the broken Matt Hardy, you know, that sort of building where he has his little training facility and random tables like by the ring, sort of like that. It was like a barn type place with a ring right in the middle, and everything was just really close together. Like you walk in, there's the concession stand, there's the ticket booth, there's seats like right behind the ticket booth. Like there's not a lot of room here for merch tables, let alone like a ramp for, from the entranceway to the ring. I mean, they'd left room around the ring. That's probably the most room that they left, but otherwise, like everything else is jam packed in there. And it was a pretty full house, pretty rowdy bunch, from the second I walked in. Lots of screaming from children, adults, grandparents, a lot of potty words, a lot of bad words that if you follow my Twitter, I use all the time. So, just craziness. I walked in the middle of a match and there was just a lot of crazy bumps going on, just a lot of like pile drivers on the floor, like concrete floor, no padding, things like that. Just a lot of things that, there were double headbutts that just, if you saw the movie, with Will Smith, it would just make you cringe a little bit. Concussion, like,
yes.
There were just a lot of moves. I was just like, CTE the whole time. I was freaking out. Just things that are considered unsafe, I think, in other promotions, specifically, WWE for sure. So right off the bat, that's what I'm walking into. Rowdy crowd, hostile. Like you could feel it because the crowd was very hostile towards the wrestlers. Whoever the heel was, there was in the front row, there were 4 or 5, I called them mean girls because they were high school age, flicking off the wrestlers and telling them, F you, I hate you, blah, blah, blah. And, I don't even think they really restricted it just to the heels. Like they were just heeling out at everybody. Didn't matter if you were face. They thought you sucked. They told you sucked. There was a grandmother in front of me who was calling one of the wrestlers a cheater and a loser and saying that she was going to tag him on Facebook. What? As a liar and a cheater. She used other words, but primarily, the point was that he was a liar and a cheater. But she said she was gonna tag him on Facebook. The kids, super mean. I mean, everybody was just like, they were hot. It was a hot crowd. It was a really hot crowd. Yeah.
Okay, wait. So I want to, when you describe these,
yeah, I know. Right? I'm like, okay, let me stop and let you take this in for a little bit.
Yeah. When you describe these mean girls and this grandma type,
yes,
the grandma, is it similar to the dudes who were throwing coins at you when you were a valet?
A little bit. Like could have been one of those guys' wives, sisters, something like that. She brought her whole family. There was 3 generations. I think it was the grandmother, the grandfather, parents, and then kids with friends. So they took up like 3 rows. But the grandmother was definitely the one that was into it. She had a cane. She was right at the corner, front row corner, right where the wrestlers came into the ring. And so she could say anything she wanted to anybody that came into the ring. And she did. She let every single person know how she felt. If you follow along and you guys watched, FIP this weekend.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to
down in Tampa. She was like the heckler that you kept hearing during, I don't know, like she wouldn't shut up. She was going all night long. And if there wasn't a wrestler she was screaming at, she was like fighting with people in the crowd. Okay. Like it was fantastic.
Was it fantastic?
A little bit because like they got me. Like as a mark, you guys know I'm a mark, clearly. I was on the other side of the room from the grandmother. I'd gone to get a drink and a man walked by me and was just screaming at the wrestlers, screaming at like, I don't know, the crowd, and then zoomed in on the grandma and told her to get off her phone and pay attention to the wrestling. Using
there you go.
A lot of other colorful words. And she shot back and they started fighting. Like he was walking towards her, and I thought they were like actually going to get into a fight, but nobody moved. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, this is how they talk to each other. I don't know. It was one of those situations where you see like something escalating, but then realize that it's like a normal thing. Okay. That these two obviously knew each other and they just like yell at each other at wrestling shows. Like it's like a thing that they do. I don't know. Like he yelled at her about
I'm hearing you describe it, and for me, it's more. I think we mentioned this off air. This is more like a familial argument, where it's like someone you're familiar with or your family with, where you can do this and it's okay.
Yeah, like you can yell at, you know, your family member from across the room and call them an MFer and tell them to get off their MFing phone. And you guys know me. I'm so like, I'm being very like, I'm trying to be very clean for you guys right now. I'm trying not to go blue because I could use a lot of words right now because what I heard a lot of stuff there. So he's like telling her to get off her phone and she's just like, F you, and they're screaming at each other. And I was like, okay. And then, yeah, and then the mean girls on my right side were yelling at the guys and flicking them off. And then the kids, some of the kids, you know, covered their ears like they were not
Good
having
job,
it.
Kids.
Yeah, and then some of the kids were about it. I mean, you had the women working the concession stand heckling the wrestlers, like,
come on,
with profanities, you know, like it was just amazing. It was just a small space, lots of energy, lots of fire from the crowd, and I did not feel at any point unsafe or feel like the crowd was against me or feel any hostility from anybody. Like I just sat there and enjoyed it. You know, like it was a show. Like everyone was putting on a show. The wrestlers put on a show. The crowd was putting on a show. Everyone was having a good time. You know, I for a moment, for a half second, I was like, maybe I'm out of place. Like maybe I don't belong here. Or like maybe this is a place I shouldn't be. But we talk about this all the time on our podcast and on this podcast. When you encounter these situations, you just try and think the best of people and the best of the situation. You talk yourself through it reasonably. And, for a hot second, I was like, this is not a place for me. But then I looked around and realized that I was having a good time and everyone else was having a good time. And it didn't matter that I was a female person of color and did not look like anyone else in the room, if that makes any sense. And
that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? Like, this is awesome. Like, this is wrestling. Like, we're all just here. We're heckling the heels, like making fun of them. And someone wants to tag someone on Facebook for being a liar and a cheater, and it's totally fine. So, of
course, it's fine.
IWA Mid-South, baby.
Oh, see, the more you describe this, because when we talked about this the other day after you went, I got the impression that something like this was too indie. It harkened back to the old days of being in independent wrestling was a no-no. What the taboo thing of being an independent wrestling fan, where, as you described, a barn is the focal point of where the event is.
Yeah.
But I feel as if we're changing as wrestling fans and as people, where we're all in on the joke now. It's not like the territory days where Flair would get, or Piper would get death threats. For invading a foreign territory. I feel within reason, people are more well adjusted to handle the line between fan wrestler. And you've said about this all the time in regards to Sami Callihan. You guys have a very antagonistic relationship. But fortunately, you guys can hug and make up, and it's all for the business, and that's great. So I get the feeling now that you're putting it into another context, that not as, and pardon the phrase, podunk as I originally had thought it would have been, because you did break your chair.
I did. The second I sat down, I heard something and sunk down in my chair, and I was like, well, damn, I broke my chair. Because they look like discarded chairs from like a wedding that they've been used in like 200 weddings before. So maybe somebody drove by a wedding venue and saw like a bunch of chairs in the dumpster, and then they put them in this venue. Like that's because they were like the dirtiest white chairs I've ever seen. And yes, one broke under my weight, my girth. So.
Yes, your massive weight.
My massive weight. And so I was just like, this is perfect. That the second I sat down, it broke. And I was like, it doesn't matter because I'm just going to stand anyway. And, there was one bathroom that was like connected to the wrestlers' dressing room, I guess. I don't know. I opened the wrong door and suddenly I was looking at a bunch of wrestlers and I was like, shoot, I was like, hopefully they don't think that this is their bathroom, because it was just it was just one little room in the corner and there were two doors. So I went in one and I was like, what's this other door? And I opened it and suddenly I'm looking at a bunch of guys and I'm like, okay, this is weird. Trying to lock everything that I can, hoping nobody walks in on me. And so, it was a hot mess. And And I don't know if that just says something about me that I like hot messes, but I felt at home. I felt like this was wrestling. Like maybe it wasn't like the best quality chairs, best quality venue, people, but like it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and you could tell that the people in that building loved wrestling. And they've loved wrestling for a really long time.
Okay.
And I appreciate that.
See, that's okay. See, now that you're putting it out there, and I'll let you finish your thought after this. You're putting it out there for the audience to get a better understanding about what it is to be a fish out of water, because you essentially were a fish out of water.
For sure.
And still feel as if it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. Yes, exactly.
What we're trying to get to. That is what we're trying to get to as people, where we could be in a situation like that and it doesn't matter.
Right. Exactly. That like maybe I'm noticing that I don't fit in. Maybe they are too, but it doesn't matter to anyone. Like, so if I sit there and dwell on it, it only matters to me. Because nobody else, like everyone, obviously everyone turned around and looked at me when I walked in. But I think once they kind of figured out that I was there to watch wrestling and I wasn't there to, I don't know, cause an uproar or mess up their night or whatever, like they were down with it. Like we all gelled, like that's what wrestling does. Like that's what it should do, is like you look at somebody who you could be totally different from, afraid of, who knows, whatever. And it's like, oh, we're both wrestling fans. Cool. Like that's what binds us.
Right. I wish, and we talked about this on Last Mark Standing, I really wish we can take all these positive vibes that you, me, Papa Hales, and others that bring with us to events, especially independent ones, and we could take that and use it in our real personal lives. Like,
Are
I
you
wish
saying that everything could be wrestling?
Yes. Well, we've made the correlation between wrestling and personal psychology. So if you can do that, you can do this. You can equate everything to wrestling. I mean, there's times where I want to smash some people with a chair at work, and I don't do it because that would get me disqualified or fired, as you put it. Right. So but then there's times I give people the finger poke of doom, and they acquiesce to what I say because I'm the boss. If you're familiar with the WCW finger poke of doom. So I can equate most things to pro wrestling. So I find this description to be very helpful. And if anything, just an added layer of entertainment for me.
It is, and it's like, that's why, like, we talk about this all the time. Like, if you have wrestlers that you like and you support, which is the reason why I came out to this event, like, follow them to a place that you never would go before. Clarksville, Indiana is where this event was. And I think this whole promotion started in Louisville, which is right across the bridge from Clarksville, or Charleston or Clarksville. It's a beautiful area. Like, that's the thing. Like, we had guys coming in from Ohio. We had guys coming in from St. Louis area. Like, some of the guys drove like through 4 different states to get to this place. This tiny little barn tucked into a suburb, to do some IWA Mid-South wrestling, and carry on tradition. So it's kind of crazy. I had a great time. I saw a lot of hardcore wrestling, which I know isn't everybody's cup of tea. And it was a little difficult for me to watch. There were a couple moves that I had problems with, but everybody was safe. No injuries, nothing like that. People were hanging around, taking down the ring. Like it was so familial that I felt like there were people helping to take down the ring and put the chairs away that usually don't. You know what I mean? Like, because usually if you go to an indie event, it's usually like younger wrestlers. Or like people who like work, I don't know, with the promotion who are doing that stuff. But here, like, there were kids and moms like putting their chairs away. Like, it's just like, look, we're here like
that's
every month, whatever. Yeah.
And that's a real family environment.
Yes, it is. It is. Like it was awesome. And I got to see some like backstage indie wrestling business stuff that I'd heard about before. And, like, it just gave me everything. It gave me the full package, the full like indie wrestling experience. IWA Mid-South, great wrestling, great crowd. just crazy stuff, an experience I'll never forget.
Wow, you made that seem almost magical.
Yeah, I mean, and look, not everybody's going to have the same experience, obviously. Somebody might walk into a barn and be like, this is not where I want to be.
Just think about how you started that sentence. Yeah, somebody may walk into a barn.
Yeah, and be like, this is not where I want to be. But, full disclosure, I am Filipino. I grew up on the East Coast. Now I'm, Michigan, Chicago, stuff like that. But I lived in Dallas for 4 years. I was born in Mobile, Alabama. So I have a little bit of that Southern like twang, in me. So some of this stuff isn't necessarily that shocking to me, or fish out of water necessarily, because I lived in Dallas for 4 years. I've been to the Texas State Fair. There was a time when I lived in Texas, and this was during Obama's first term when he was running, where I walked around the Texas State Fair with an Obama shirt on and got like verbally, assaulted by people. Like just, just like walking around, like people were like, they saw my shirt, saw my face, and like felt like it was fine to say whatever they wanted to me. So, whatever your misconceptions are, or your characterizations of the South and Southern Territory wrestling, I definitely saw some of that in real life. But then it also was awesome. And, whatever misconceptions I had about it were totally blown out of the water, because I had a fantastic time. And wrestlers put on a great show, and the crowd loved it. So, I mean, that's all you need,
Okay. I can get on that. I can get with that. I'm trying to think if I've ever been someplace that looked like a barn. Not for a wrestling event. I think I've been to barns for weddings and maybe for wine tastings. And I know I sound really douchey right now by saying that.
Sounds like Pinterest. Yeah, are you sure you just haven't been on Pinterest?
No, I don't have a Pinterest account, unfortunately not. I do have a Twitter account. You can tweet me at Dare to be Damian, and you can tweet us at The Last Mark Podcast and Trina at The Marquis Mark.
Yeah.
But no, I don't have Pinterest. I leave that for other people to do. Barns. No, usually a barn for me is like an axe murderer or like Leatherface.
Yeah.
So we ain't trying to go to a barn.
I've been in a lot of barns in my life.
Are you an axe murderer, Trina?
I'm not. To the point where like I don't know, there might be people who walk into the venue for IWA Mid-South and be like, this is not a barn. It's kind of like perspective. Like I lived in Chicago for a while, and I talked about the lake, and there's a giant lake in Chicago, Lake Michigan, and people go to the beach. And then I have people from California laughing at me saying, that's not a beach, that's a lake. It's just the lakeside. And I'm like, but there's sand. So, people have different definitions of words. And I think some people maybe might not think this was a barn, but look, you take the ring and you take the chairs out of that thing, and like, to me, that's a barn.
Were there animals?
No, there were not animals. There was no straw on the floor.
No bales of hay.
No bales of hay. No bales of hay. But it could be used as a barn. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like these are just sort of like nondescript Southern structures, if that makes sense. Like
nondescript Southern structures.
Nondescript agricultural structures. How about that? Like that you would find on an agricultural land. Mixed use. So maybe you'd put hay in it. Maybe you'd put animals in it. Maybe you'd have a wrestling match in it. Maybe you'd have a wedding ceremony. Who knows?
It's multi-purpose. Multi-purpose, yes. But definitely, but all in all, good experience.
I know some people that would call it a barn for sure.
Okay. But for you, it was a good experience, right?
It was fantastic. Good. And it just comes back to like, just look for the good wrestling, guys. Like if guys are putting on a good performance in the ring and the people are enjoying it, like that's really all that matters.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be going into a barn anytime soon, but I can appreciate your enthusiasm for it. I'm sure the audience for indie pop
can appreciate it. I'm going to get hate mail about barns.
No, you're not. Like. Really? If people are going to write about hate mail about barns, no.
Some Texas people are going to be like, that is not a barn. Like,
you know what? I got an idea. Tweet a picture what the barn looked like.
Oh God. Okay. I have video. I have not. I haven't released a lot of like pictures or video and stuff, because IWA Mid-South is actually relaunching. And so this is one of their very first events. And so they didn't want a lot of like videos and pictures and stuff coming out. So I'll tweet out a picture on my Twitter. Because obviously a lot of promotions have different rules about whether you can film or not. And, IWA didn't want you filming. A couple other places are PWG, obviously, it's like that too. So I'll post a picture.
Are they now? PWG's like that. Are they now?
Yes, they are.
So what's going on with our friendly neighborhood PWG?
What's going on with our friendly PWG is that I am now planning on making a trip to our friendly neighborhood PWG after all of the huffing and puffing I made about being elitist or hipster wrestling events. Your very own Marquis the heel Trina will be, hopefully, if I can get a ticket. Like I say this now, but chances are maybe I don't even get a ticket and it doesn't even happen. Going to try to make the February 18th PWG event.
Wait a minute. How are you going to try to wait a minute. How are you going to try to make the February 18th event when you have a job to do on February 19th?
Exactly. Well, people have asked the same of Big Mike Elgin, who's going to do the same thing. He is wrestling at PWG on Saturday, and then flying back in for Glory Pro on Sunday in Alton, Illinois.
So wait. I'm mad at you now. Hold on. Wait a minute. I'm mad at you now. After all this that you were like, well, if I don't go to PWG, it's no big deal. It's not on my bucket list or anything like that.
I know.
You're telling me that I was like, kind of being hard on them.
I know.
And now you're going to be one of them?
I am. It's not for the reasons you guys think. And this is getting a little inside baseball, like the blurred lines of whether I'm a fan or I'm in the business anymore. But that event specifically, and we've talked about this on maybe the last episode or the episode after that, because of the call-ups at WWE, there are now spaces for people who've never wrestled in certain venues.
This is true.
So there are people who are making their PWG debut next month in Reseda on February 18th. And a couple of guys that are going to be new to that roster. This is their debut. This is their first time. This is something that has been at the top of their bucket list. And I know them, and I just kind of want to be there for that moment. Like I've promised that to guys before. Like they have certain milestones that they have. And, just as an added motivation or whatever, I'm like, look, if you ever make it to XYZ venue, I'll be there. Like, don't worry. Like, I'll be in the back, like screaming my lungs out, like cheering you on. So this is what's happened. Up until like last night at 8:00 when the announcement was made, I was not really planning on ever really, trying to go to PWG. If I went, it was fine, but it wasn't really on my list. But now, since certain people are debuting, it means something to me to be there and support them as a friend and as a fan. So that's what's happening.
So I don't have to be mad at you anymore for going to PWG. You're just going to support your friends.
I am. And because like I've been, and you know people too. It's like, trust me, I feel like we talk about Ken Broadway so much on this show that if that man, the day he debuts on Monday Night Raw, I will be in tears. Like that's how I feel about certain people. And there are a couple people that are debuting next month that this has been 10 years in the making, that fans are tweeting me their travel plans to drive 36 hours from Dayton to Reseda to see their childhood heroes wrestle at PWG for the very first time. I'm going to start crying in their career. Like this is what this means to all of us as fans. Is to see your favorite hit a milestone like on their list, and it's like, and knowing the guys that are going to be wrestling there, like they've been overwhelmed with the positive response. Like they had no clue that people were going to be reacting this way. The news dropped last night around 8, right in the middle of Raw. PWG's next card is February 18th. And it's going to feature a 6-man tag with Sami Callihan and OI4K versus the Young Bucks and Adam Cole. And so this is, full disclosure, this is who I'm talking about. You guys know that I support Rockstar Pro out in Dayton and a lot of the guys that wrestle out of that promotion. And I've gotten to know a lot of the fans. And this is what gets me, is the fans. Like, I'm happy for the guys. Like, obviously, like, I want to go see them and their debut and stuff. But I've got fans DMing me about their travel plans. And just like, you can feel the emotion. Like, they're fans telling me that they've been watching OI4K, Dave, Chris, and Jake Chris since they were kids. Since Dave, Chris, and Jake Chris were kids themselves, like wrestling in backyards in Dayton. And so there are people that have been following their careers for like 10, 15 years. And this is a pinnacle for a lot of indie wrestlers, is PWG. And so there are people, like this is their WrestleMania for some people, to go out there to Reseda and see their favorites finally make it to this stage. So there's a lot of love going on around right now, especially in Ohio. There's a couple other people that are going to be on that card as well that we know: Matt Riddle, Jeff Cobb, Big Mike. So this is what I'm talking about, guys. Like, we need to get our favorites into places they've never been before.
See, now you sound like your old self. That's good. Okay. I was worried that you were going to turn Hollywood on me, and then you were going to be all like douchey, you're a wrestling fan. So okay.
No, if anything, I tweeted this last night. I was like, I might ruin the vibe. Like, whatever they got going on there probably didn't include the Marquis Smart, like, in tears because OI4K is debuting at PWG. So, I'm like, maybe I ruin it. Maybe the magical experience is broken because I'm like such a hot mess.
Or maybe they've never seen something like you before, and thusly you'll start a new tradition.
I don't know. Papa Hales will be there. He said he's got my back because he knows he's seen me at many events, Wild and Out. So he knows like what the Marquis Smart, what Heel Trina can bring to an event. And so, he's like, don't worry, I'll be right there. So yeah, I'm going to try. The tickets haven't even gone on sale yet. And people
they're just talking about it. Right. I saw that.
People are rearranging their lives. I mean, like, literally you can see there's a guy who's been tweeting me. He's like, it's 36 hours. He's broken down how much it'll cost if it's like 4 people in a car, sharing a hotel room and things. Like, he's got it down. Like, he's done the math. And I'm just, to me, like, as a wrestling fan, as in like indie wrestling supporter, that warms my heart so much. It's ridiculous. Like, I'm crying. I was crying. Yeah, I was crying last night. I'm not crying right now. I'm kind of crying inside right now, but last night I did cry. I was just too much going on last night. Look, like, they announced the PWG stuff. Big Mike, because I got a heads up on this. Big Mike was doing an open challenge on January 21st. He had that date open, and I know you tweeted him about coming to Battle Club or whatever. And he ended up tweeting yesterday that was an open challenge to anybody who wanted to wrestle him. He didn't care if you were signed, like what level you were, like you could come and wrestle him. And I saw that, and I was just like, that warmed my heart. And then Undertaker came, and I got the chills, and it was just like, it was like wrestling utopia all like in one moment for me during Raw. And then after Undertaker, it all went downhill from there. But, otherwise I was a little emotional. It was a nice moment,
Like, you need a moment.
Gargano all over.
A couple of moments. It's what?
I said it was Ciampa Gargano all over again. It's just me crying.
Oh, don't.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I keeping in that vein of who stepped up to the challenge, apparently it's our friend Sean Orleans that stepped up
It is.
To the challenge of Big Mike Elgin on the 21st.
Yes.
For PWCS Wrestling, right? I believe that's it.
Yes.
Dad Bod versus Big Mike as it's being billed.
Exactly. And Sean, let me give you guys a little bit of background on Sean. Sean has been wrestling for a while. He's one of these guys, like a Dave Chris, that's been around for a while, that's been teaching younger wrestlers, that's been wrestling. You can find old pictures of like dad bod before he was dad bod. But you know, now he's still wrestling. Obviously he's going to take on Big Mike on the 21st. But like, you know, when I'm hanging out with him and other guys and stuff, he's such the father figure in that group. And it's so awesome to just see the way he mentors people and how people respect him. And so, you know, like, this is why I'm like, let's take a second look at certain people. I know, like, the 19-year-olds, the 21-year-olds, the high flyers, they're fantastic. But there have been guys that have been putting a lot into this business. They've paid their dues. And I think this is the time, like, to put a spotlight on them and like take another look, you know? And so I'm so happy for Sean that he's going to be taking on Big Mike. This is a big match for him. And, you know, I just would like to see him go places for sure.
You would hope that leads to good things for Sean, because he's a hardworking guy, and in our interactions online, it's evident that he knows what he's getting himself into, and he's no dummy, you know, he's no slouch. So I'm looking forward to finding the results of this match, even though, well, I don't want to assume, because you know what happens when you assume.
I mean, you don't want to assume that the guy who won the Rumble at Wrestle at
Wrestle Kingdom, exactly, the guy who won,
who's going to win the match. Yeah,
exactly, the guy who won Wrestle Kingdom's version of the Royal Rumble, may not win this match. You don't know, but hey, that's the beautiful part about wrestling. And keeping with Wrestle Kingdom, and I'm not gonna wax poetic about it much more, because I'm sure people are tired of me talking about it. I've mentioned it on Mat Men. I mentioned it on our show. But all I'm going to say in terms of Wrestle Kingdom, if you haven't seen Wrestle Kingdom 11, do yourself a favor, find it, go to New Japan World, watch the last 4 matches. Do yourself a favor. If you really love in-ring action mixed with good overall production, like building that, you know, that spectacle, watch Wrestle Kingdom 11 and watch the last 4 matches. You will understand why New Japan is, in a sense, the rock stars of Japanese wrestling. Because I know you didn't watch it in a lot of detail, but I did. So long story short, it's probably one of the best top to bottom cards I've seen in a long time. The worst match was the Cody Rhodes versus Juice Robinson, formerly known as CJ Parker match. And that was maybe a 2.5. More impressed with CJ Parker, well, formerly CJ Parker, more so than Cody Rhodes. And we've talked about this, how I just don't think Cody has developed a style conducive to the indies, but he'll get there. But if that was the worst match on the card, do yourself a favor, check it out. Go check out Wrestle Kingdom on New Japan World, or if you're too cheap to pay for it, I'm sure it's somewhere on Daily Motion. People to watch out for. Both of the Tiger Masks. Okay, it was like Tiger Mask Dark and Tiger Mask W. There was like an anime wrestling match. Turns out the people under the mask were Kota Ibushi and ACH. Exactly. ACH, formerly of Ring of Honor, now touring the independent circuit, against Kota Ibushi, i.e. the Golden Star of Japan kind of thing. So that was a good match, considering they only got 6 minutes. They were only given 6 minutes to work, and they both had masks on because it was supposed to be relative to the anime, and they tried their best. There was like an exploding tombstone, but you could tell who the wrestlers were. If you knew the style and you recognized the move sets, you knew who it was. So keep an eye out. If you don't know who Kota Ibushi is and you don't know who ACH is, do yourself a favor. Educate yourself. YouTube, anywhere, Daily Motion. Those 2 guys, they make it look easy. Another guy I love is Kyle O'Reilly and Shibata, and I'm going to put them in the same thing because I found out about both of them when they wrestled against each other in August at Field of Honor in Brooklyn at Keyspan Park. Those 2 beat the living crap out of each other. I thought it was going to be a double knockout.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. It's not even strong style. It's more like Brooklyn Bronx beatdown style.
Yes. Yeah. And Kyle O'Reilly, I think, has an MMA background, right? Something like that.
He does, yes. And
so, I mean, that's are really hitting each other.
No. Yeah. And if you watch, and you know this, Trina, if you watch Shibata before, you can tell in the ring, I'm not saying he's getting off on it, but he's really like hit me more, bitch. Like, that's the face he gives. Like, that's all you got, you punk ass. Like, hit me harder.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking two things. I would not want to be hit by Shibata. And number two, if he's into rough stuff in the bedroom, I feel bad for his partner because he's probably going to slap the crap out of his partner.
Oh, he's probably a pussycat.
Think about that. All these strong style guys, right? That just beat the crap out of each other in the ring behind closed doors. You think they're gentle?
They like intense cuddling. That's what they like.
Extreme cuddling. What does that even look like? What does extreme cuddling even look like?
Cuddle me harder, bro.
Oh my God, that should be a t-shirt. That should be a t-shirt. What a maneuver or vacated title. Get on that. Cuddle me harder, bro. So yeah, you might want to keep an eye out for Kyle O'Reilly. You might want to keep an eye out for Shibata. But look at the last 4 matches and you will be thoroughly, as a wrestling fan, not a sports entertainment fan, a wrestling fan, thoroughly entertained, and a whole lot of, on the Damian cringe scale of, ooh, we got at least 45, 46 out of those last 4 matches.
Yeah.
So that tells you enough right there.
Right. And you know, like, I didn't get into Wrestle Kingdom as much as Damian did, but I mean, Shibata is worth checking out. He's a legend. And Kyle O'Reilly is he's just this young talent that really, you guys are going to hear about him very soon. Because I know there were a lot of rumblings after Wrestle Kingdom that he might be signed. So who knows? But you know, he's been putting in his work, and I think we're about to see a lot of him soon. So either way, you'll probably see a lot of Kyle O'Reilly.
Right. And one person, I have to talk about this really quick, that I'm not high on, but people have reached out to me and are trying to defend their point, is Adam Cole. Now,
I know, I saw that conversation.
You saw that today. Yeah. I debated the person in private on DM about what we thought about Wrestle Kingdom and Adam Cole. And I want to give him his props at I Follow WWE Cruiserweight King. He loves Adam Cole. That guy got him into Ring of Honor. I have seen Adam Cole live 3 times. I've seen him on TV countless times. I don't think he's got what I like about wrestling. I'm not going to go off and say he sucks or he's garbage or anything like that. He's just not my cup of tea.
Right.
So if anyone is an Adam Cole fan, I'm not saying that he's horrible in the ring. All I'm saying is I'm not a fan. I think he is the birth child of Drew Galloway mixed with Heath Slater.
Right.
When he does the baby, like that's Heath Slater. He's basically stealing Heath Slater's gimmick. So, and then he looks like a skinny version of Drew Galloway. So, and fun fact, him and Kyle O'Reilly used to be a tag team. People don't know that. I didn't know that till I found out on Wrestle Kingdom. I thought that was interesting. So just watch that show. Tweet me at Dare to Be Damien if there's some independent wrestlers you want me to check out, because I'm always dying to check out new talent and watch their matches. And I think you were one of the people, and Papa Hales also put me on to Priscilla Kelly.
Oh yeah. Guys, you got to watch out. This is her year. You're seeing so much of her. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, people have told me she's like Paige, but motivated, if that makes sense.
Yes. Well, okay. And you know, little tidbit about me, and this probably won't surprise you guys if you are Last Mark Standing fans or have been with us for a while. Part of the reason I even know about her in the first place is because I watch a show called My Big Fat Gypsy Wedding. And Priscilla Kelly is an American Gypsy. If you know what that is. Yeah. If you know what that is. If you watch TLC, I think is the channel that does all the big fat gypsy wedding stuff. And she's a gypsy. So they chronicled her like foray into her beginnings into wrestling as a gypsy. And her family not being okay with it and like all this different stuff. And, you know, I'm watching TV, like I'm just flipping channels, and I get on an old episode of My Big Fat Gypsy Wedding and she's on it. And it was like 3 or 4 years ago. It was a long time ago. And I start Googling and I'm like, oh, she's a big star in Atlanta. Like she's actually a really good wrestler. And so that's when I started looking at her stuff. I started paying attention to her. She's fantastic. And she's poised to have a really big 2017. She's getting pushed all over the place. So you guys are going to find out about her very quickly.
And I believe the show started in 2010. So yeah, it's been a while. 2010
it's been a while.
to 2015.
Yeah. So, if you watch that show, or, you find a Priscilla Kelly match, you can go back to TLC and find, her gypsy show, her episode or something. It's cool, it's cool that she's doing this, that this is not something typical in her culture. If you do watch that show or whatever, and know about American gypsy culture, women don't work in that culture. Right. They're supposed to be married and cleaning the house and raising children, and they're not supposed to have jobs. They're not supposed to be educated. And here's this gypsy woman just running around with the guys. Like, she's not even just, making a splash on her own. She's being put into like dominant male stables as the female. I mean, that's crazy to me. That's awesome.
Okay. Wasn't she put into a stable this past weekend?
She was. So she was just put into Uncle John's Friends, which is over in FIP. And she's been a member of the Carnies, like over in Atlanta with Carrie Awful and Nick Iggy, who are friends of our show. So, I mean, she's in two like predominantly male stables. And, before that she was holding her own. So you guys just have to, you're going to see so much more of her. Trust me. You guys are going to see so much more of her. I know she's been in Atlanta most of the time. The FIP show this weekend, which is Gabe Sapolsky, it's Evolve. It's part of Evolve's network. So she was down there with them. So that means you'll probably be seeing more of her in Evolve. So you'll see her eventually, Damian.
Yes, I will see her live. And I've been dying to see her live because everyone keeps singing her praises. Yeah. And we all know how much I love women's wrestling. So that's cool. Looking forward to seeing her hopefully in Evolve. Yeah.
So, I mean, these are all people that we're going to be seeing more of. And so I will be probably going to places I've never been before because people I know will be making their debuts. And, I kind of, as a fan, I want to see that, that's awesome.
I agree with you. And to be quite honest, I'm actually going to revisit a place that I had never been to before again. And I think this event I went to that there was only 30 people in the crowd. And this Friday, I will be going back to the New York Sportatorium on Friday for Next Level Wrestling, 43513 Brook Avenue in Deer Park, New York. It's going to be a pretty stacked card. I mean, we got David Starr, Rude Boy Riley, Sonny Kiss, people I've mentioned, TJ Marconi. I've mentioned these people on the show. So if you're in the Long Island area, feel free to check it out. Feel free to stop by. I will be there. Andrew Zarian will be on commentary. Our friend Andrew Zarian from Mat Men will be on commentary for Next Level Wrestling. So just imagine that. Imagine Andrew on commentary and me just being an asshole all over the place because number one, they don't serve alcohol at the New York Sportatorium. So that's one thing. So we're going to go to the Buffalo Wild Wings, myself, Matty Ice, and Rick Castle. And then we're going to go and probably join a 50-50 raffle and hopefully we win some money. But that place, how do I say this gently, smells a little like piss sometimes.
Yeah. The very first time Damian ever walked into the Sportatorium, I get a text from him. It smells like piss in here. And I texted him back. I said, welcome to indie wrestling.
So I'm not thinking negatively of the event. I'm not dissing
it's
Next
not
Level
barn.
Wrestling. No, right? It's not a barn. It's an actual Sportatorium. It's an actual place that you can hold a wrestling event that doesn't have all these multi-purposes where you can have cows and chickens and ducks and whatnot walking around the place. Right. So Next Level Wrestling this Friday, the 13th, ironically enough, myself, Andrew Zarian from Mat Men Podcast, 435 Brook Avenue, Deer Park, New York, 11729. Just Google search where you can pick up tickets. It's all over the place. Again, I'm going. Friends of the Last Mark Standing, Matty Ice, as well as Rick Castle will be there. So if you see me, again, just be gentle and say hello. If you see Andrew Zarian, tell him you love Mat Men. And while you're at it, go listen to their show. Him and BTC Rich, who are friends of ours. And I was on their show last week, I should say. So
check that out.
All of us in one room. Check that out. You got me talking about my indie name. I have an indie wrestling name that I only said on Mat Men. So you're going to have to watch it to find out what it was. Yeah. I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint. It's not PG. So we'll just go there.
Exactly. So, well, I have one more thing, but like if we need to we probably do need to get out of here, but I do have one more thing. I stopped by Rockstar Pro to their iPay-per-view last Friday unannounced. People had been asking if I was going to go. I happened to be in Clarksville, Indiana the night before, and lo and behold, Dayton is 2 hours away. So I ended up going to Rockstar. It was fantastic because a lot of my friends, Enrico, bunch of fans who didn't know that I was going to be there were super surprised to see me. A lot of wrestlers that I've made friends with recently were super surprised to see me. So, we publicize a lot of our appearances at these events. But I have to say, Damian, I think every once in a while, I think we just need to pop in unannounced to places and like have a great, like just sit in the back, and be a fan, because it was really awesome to go out there. And you guys will hear us talk about this a little bit more on our podcast on Last Mark Standing, but I really want to do a profile on Jake Christ because he is doing a gimmick, between us as fans, a gimmick that is very close to Prince, I would say. And, in conversations with him off the record, this is not really a gimmick for him. This is a life. So it's very interesting. He's got a lot to say about it. And so we're going to be doing a sit-down interview at some point where he can talk about it because, in his words, this is 2017, and wrestling fans should be able to be okay with, whatever he's going to put out there. So it's again, this is something we're going to cover on our other show, but keep a lookout for Jake because Jake's one of the guys that's going to be out at PWG next month. And Zachary once was awesome at Rockstar Pro. He retained his championship with a severely bloody cut finger.
Oh, dude, that looked gnarly, man. Yeah. That was mangled and disheveled looking. Yeah. Oh my God. Props to Zachary once for being such a warrior because it happened in the first not even 5 minutes of the match, and there was just blood everywhere. It was crazy. He had a great match with Dave Christ. He retained. He's just so talented. You guys have no idea. He's so young. He's only been doing this for like a year and a half or something. So if you ever have a chance to go see Zachary Wentz, he's going to be out, I know, on the East Coast a couple times. Battle Club Pro, I think he'll be there. So keep an eye on that because he put on a hell of a show last Friday, losing tons of blood in front of all of us at Rockstar Pro. And he didn't die.
And he didn't. He was good, smiling ear to ear afterwards.
Oh, nice. Okay, then that's cool because I've checked out Zach Wentz and I've checked out some Jake Christ stuff. So I'm looking forward to your sit down interview with Jake, and I hope one day we can talk to Zach also. Before we get out of here, surprising Enrico. So what was the whole thing with our youngest fan and his forays into Rockstar Pro?
I mean, like I said, I just didn't tell people. I had told everybody that I was not going to that event. And it was just the cutest thing. And he probably will hate that I'm saying it's the cutest thing, but he started texting me. He's like, "Are you here? I think I see somebody that looks like you." And I was like, "Yeah, actually I am." And he was so surprised to see me. And there were a couple other fans that were super, super surprised to see me. It was just really cool. Because we advertise this stuff all the time, like, oh, come and see us at this event or come and see us at that event. But to sneak into an event unannounced and not tell people I was going to be there and see their faces, this is what I mean. Like when you support people, and you show up to places you don't plan on being, like it's such a big thing for them. Like I said, Aaron Williams didn't know I was going to IWA Mid-South, and he wrestled like 3 or 4 matches that night. It was a tournament, and he lost the tournament eventually. But the very last match, he finally saw me in the crowd, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" and broke kayfabe and gave me a hug. And so it's like, this is what the support means to these guys. And so seeing Enrico's face and the Ugly Ducklings over at Rockstar Pro, they didn't know I was going to be there. And Timmy Lou Retton, he didn't know. Like, it was just awesome. Like, it shows me that my support means something. And I think it means something to a lot of wrestlers. So just, go to every event that you can. You don't have to tell people about it. Just support indie wrestling like any way you can.
I'm going to start showing up unannounced.
Yes, it was great. I'm telling you, like Enrico was just like, it was like I punked him, swerved. I swerved everybody in Dayton at Rockstar Pro. It was awesome.
Well, with that, folks, we got to get out of here, man. We shed enough laughter, blood, joy, anger, cursing, barn stories for 1 week. Thank you again to the New Age Insiders, NAI. You guys give us this forum to literally be our crazy and off the wall selves. You let Trina spaz, you get me laughing and cackling like a maniac, and we get to share the love of independent wrestling, which admittedly I was not one until recently. So I am on board. I'm on board this train, and I am on board indie pop as long as they'll have us. So thank you guys, and be sure to check out all the other shows. There's so many to name, DDT, Liam, freaking Ant, Scotty Slade. Just check out everyone, McCool and Company. Just check everybody out. Give them their time. I know they're having some weird meetup, which we won't be at. And I'm sorry, guys, we won't be at.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Boston meetup. I'm sorry, guys, we won't be there. But we will be at Battle Club Pro on the 21st. Is this one? Is it the 21st? Yeah, the 21st.
21st, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be myself, you, Hokai, a couple other people. Was it Tim? Tim's going.
Tim. Yeah, a ton of people are going to be. It's going to be a reunion.
Phil might go, so it's going to be one big old reunion for anyone associated with NAI. So look everybody else up. You can reach us at Last Mark Podcast, myself at Dare to be Damian, Trina at the Marquis Mark. You're listening to Indie Pop by the Last Mark Standing, and we'll see you next week, guys.
Bye, guys.